Hey there everyone, just wanted to make a video regarding some of the warning lights on these P80 Volvos. There is a good video out there already on this subject, but the UK cars and presumably the cars within the rest of Europe have a few differences from the American models which that video is based on. So I'm just going to give you a tour of all the warning lights in here. Firstly, if I take you down here, there's a warning light on the light switch. That indicates that either the dipped headlights or the parking lights are switched on. Just bring you around here slightly. The warning light for the front fog lights is actually on the switch itself, unlike the rear fog lights. And there is a warning light for the hazard lights actually on the switch itself. Of course, if you have an 850, that switch is actually about there. Okay, moving on to the main cluster of warning lights. There's potentially a total of 20 on these cars. Starting from the top left, working across, then down and across. I'll give you a little run through. The top left there, I've never actually found a car on which that's connected, but that is actually a warning light for the cruise control. Don't know which market that applies to, but not the United Kingdom. The next one along is that one right there. That is a warning light to indicate that the screen wash is getting low. It's a very useful feature of these cars. I'm surprised that all cars haven't adopted that by this point, but there we go. Next one along is a low fuel light. I'm pretty sure most cars have these, and it's very useful to have, particularly if you have a diesel, because you don't want to go running that out of fuel, because you'll have to bleed the system to get it started again. Next one along there, after the low fuel light, I'll show you now. Just press the switch down here. That's the warning light for the rear fog light. Next one along, if I just press the switch there, that's the warning light to indicate that the full headlights are on. Okay, moving down to the bottom left, just pull this switch down here. If you have an S70 or V70, that is the light to indicate that the boot is open. If you have an 850, I believe that space is always blank. And same goes for the one above that. In fact, I don't think any of the 850s have cruise control warning light. Next one along is the light to indicate that you have a bulb failed. If it stays lit permanently, that indicates that it's one of your headlights or a side light or a tail light. If it only glows when you press the brake pedal, that indicates that you have a brake bulb failed. Next space along, again, one that I've never actually seen connected, but I believe if you have a factory fitted tow bar and electrics, that is the warning light to indicate that the indicators on the trailer are in operation, so it would flash at the same time as your left or right turn signal. I'm not so sure about the requirements in other countries, but that is actually a requirement in the UK. Okay, next one along, as you can see, it's just popped up there and gone out. If you have a 98 or older petrol model, that space is actually blank. If you have a 99 or newer petrol model, that is your Ets Light. If you have one of those and that light comes on, you're probably in for some repairs. If you have a diesel model, such as this car, that light is your glow plug light, also known as cold start light, wait to start light, and that light basically indicates the suggested length of time you should wait for the glow plugs to warm the engine up before you try and start it. I'm actually going to make another little video to explain that in a little bit more detail. The final one over this side, as you can see there in the bottom right corner, is the Srs Light. It's normal for that to come on with the ignition, but once you've started the engine, that should go out. If it stays on, it indicates you've got a fault in the airbag system somewhere. Okay, moving around to the other side. Top left there is a picture of a battery. What you can see, that indicates that the battery is not being charged. So either if that stays on while you're driving, either you've got a problem with your alternator or the belt has come loose or snapped. Moving along there, you've got a little picture of the oil can. That indicates low oil pressure. It's normal for it to be on at this point, but you shouldn't see it once you've started the engine. If that comes on, it's something that it needs investigating immediately, and you shouldn't continue to drive, because if you carry on driving with low oil pressure, you'll very likely do serious damage to your engine. Next one along the explanation point, that is the symbol for a problem with your brakes. What it actually would mean if it comes on while you're driving is that the level of fluid in the brake master cylinder reservoir has dropped below the minimum, and that likely indicates that you have a leak somewhere, and that's something that should be investigated pretty much immediately. Next one along, see, it's a similar style of symbol with a P in the middle of it. That is the warning light that your handbrake is on. Basically, once you start the car and release the handbrake, that should go out. If it doesn't, you've likely got a problem with the switch or the wiring. Moving along to the top right, it's one of the favourite lamps for P80 owners. If you saw it briefly there, that is your ABS light. If that comes on while you're driving, basically it means you've got a fault somewhere within the ABS system. I'm sure if you've owned these cars for any length of time, you'll know that that is a light that likes to appear quite frequently nowadays. I've actually had to have the ABS controller on this car repaired already, so I don't see too much of that these days. Okay, moving along to the bottom row, the bottom left corner there, you can see that big sort of orangey yellow arrow there. That is the fault light for the automatic transmission. So if you have a manual car, that space is going to be blank. On an automatic, if that pops up while you're driving, it indicates that there's a fault code of some sort been stored, and you may have a fault with the automatic. And that light will also illuminate as a warning if you put the shifter in any of the forward positions other than simply drive. But by that I mean if you select 3 or L, just to let you know that you don't have the full range of gears available because of your selection there with the shifter. Next one along to the right, you see that is a warning light to indicate that the level of coolant within your engine has dropped. If that comes on while you're driving, I strongly advise you to pull the car over to the side of the road immediately and investigate what's going on. You know, if you carry on driving without coolant in, you can destroy the engine in less than a minute. Next one along there says tracks off. That is the warning light to indicate that traction control system has been disengaged, either because you've turned it off with the switch, which is down there to the left, or because there's a fault within the system that is disabling its operation. So something you need to investigate. Next one along there is generally referred to as the check engine light. It's also known as the Lambda Light, the emission light, a few names for it. That basically means that a fault somewhere within the engine management system has been detected and has been logged, so you need to get that investigated. And the final one, the bottom right there, is the service reminder light. That will pop up roughly once a year or every 10,000 miles, just to remind you to get regular service done. Okay, I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.